for like the first part of the high, and you probably won't get them like that for the rest of the high. So while you go from being straight sober to the big rush that you get at the beginning, that's when all my best ideas come from. It's the big rush, which is like an hour from getting high to an hour later. That's the big rush. That's when I feel like I get the most, like, where the fuck did that come from?
Yeah.
And the best writing. Like when I write things, it's like the cleanest. It's the filled with the most gems. There's more stuff in it. And then the other stuff is like editing it, putting it apart, taking it apart. But if you don't capitalize on that rush, I feel like you only get one of those a day. One big, especially like if you're sober, that one first high rush. That's not doesn't happen. And if you keep staying high, yes, settle in, right? Yeah. But the rush, so many ideas. If you wasted that by doing chin-ups, you're an asshole. Just go right, and then lift afterwards.
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, you got to harp. When the heat is growing, you got to harvest. You can't just. But it's easy to trick yourself into thinking, oh no, I've got to stick to my fucking workout, or whatever the thing is. It's not just working out, it's like whatever. I think it's important to prioritize those moments. I mean, especially if you're going with your, like with what a lot of people say, which is the antenna. You're kind of signals. You're like SETI, but not for aliens, for ideas. And these search for extraterrestrial ideas. That's what you are. You're a satellite for that. And if you start getting, I mean, imagine SETI. Imagine someone at SETI doing chin-ups, and suddenly they get like some signal from a far star system, and he's like, I'm going to finish my workout before I check out whether or not we're getting contacted by aliens. That's an asshole. If you're, because the real question is, where do your ideas come from?
Exactly.
And if you're picking up whatever these creatures are, and you've been blessed enough to get them, yeah, you should write them down.
You gotta write them down.
It's kind of like, I mean, not, I don't, like.
You gotta honor them. Right?
Yeah.
You gotta act on them. I mean, that's why people that think of the muse, like the concept of the muse, that's one of the more, it's a productive way to think of it. Like Pressfield writes about it, and Pressfield in the War of Art, and he's a very down to earth. He's not a silly man. He's a very down to earth person. But his perspective on the concept of the muse it's very beneficial if you follow it, because his perspective is essentially that you pay honor to this thing, you show up and you work with professionals, and then you respond. And these are what looks like. We think of an idea, but it's one of the most important factors in the entire construction of civilization. It's somehow we don't think of it. We think of people being we are, because we're being used by ideas. I know that sounds wrong. I really do. I know it sounds dumb too. But you're coming up with these thoughts, and we're thinking of them as like random connections that you're making in your brain, which it might be. It might be that. But it also might be that ideas are like a light do so through getting into people's heads, and the more you call for them, the more they're there for you, and the more you show up. And you can call that the muse, you can call that whatever you want.
Angels.
Tesla believed it. Tesla believes he was getting signals from some other planet or some other life form. He had some weird shit that was hard to decipher about what he could see. Tesla had a take on receiving information from other galaxies. He had this take on where some of his or some of the transmissions that he would receive. I mean, god damn, it wouldn't have been amazing to talk to that guy. Imagine having Nikola Tesla on the podcast.
Oh, who knows, man? Maybe you still can one day. Yeah, bring him back. Or like create an AI Tesla. I think a lot of people have that feeling, and some of them just don't come out of the closet, so to speak, with it, because they're afraid they're going to get judged or ostracized. I think a lot of people feel like they have a direct contact with some kind of sentience that isn't embodied inside of them, and it's giving them ideas, and they're just terrified to put it out into the world because it sounds like this stuff is nuts.
His claims of receiving signals from outer space were proven right a century later. Ooh. During the summer of 1899, Tesla set up a field laboratory in Colorado Springs, Colorado, to the possibilities of using high-altitude stations to transmit information and electric power over long distances. 1 July...
This is
Not it?
on the signal, not like him getting.
Oh, okay. Where is the signal?
This is like radio.
Oh, that he's getting radio signals from other planets. After ruling out solar and terrestrial causes, he concluded the signals must be from another planet.
Which is what? Like, that's a...
Yeah, here it says, on 1 July day, while tracking lightning storms. Oh, so it's actually equipment. His equipment picked up a series of beeps. After ruling out solar and terrestrial causes, he concluded the signals must be from another planet. Following Christmas, in response to the American Red Cross's request for a prediction of the greatest scientific achievement of the 20th century, Tesla wrote, "Brethren, we have a message from another world, unknown and remote. It reads, 1, 2, 3. In 1996, scientists published a study replicating Tesla's experiment and showing that the signal was in fact caused by the movement magnetic field.
Even how the kids didn't have to stop that, we like contact with, for sure.
I wouldn't do that. Imagine how smart it is. Hey, mister, you want to buy a paper? You know, back then, some fucking dude selling papers in the corner, and then the biggest genius the world's ever known up to that point.
Yeah.
Wandering around, trying to figure out how to send electricity through the sky.
Maybe that's all intelligence is, though, man. It's like having the willingness to let yourself go crazy enough to believe you're not the creator of your ideas, to believe that you're an antenna. Maybe that's what makes a person intelligent. Maybe that's all it takes, is that and discipline.
Well, yeah, the discipline to learn all the things that you need to know to be able to study and actually implement that technology. It's like Tesla was both things. He was a genius, and he was probably some sort of a visionary in that way. Like, he had, like Elon has, he had an extra large magnet for ideas.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude.
I think anyone can do that. Fucking strong, man. I'm so glad. Anytime you give me weed, I always forget how strong it is. And every time I'm like, fuck, man, you gotta be careful.
We go high grade up in this bitch, son. It's important to go high grade.
I think so. Yeah, absolutely.
What do you think is going to happen to us? Do you think we're going to get through this in relatively short order? The lockdown is crazy. In San Francisco, the lockdown is crazy. 3 weeks, 24 hours down the street, people go to work.
Yeah, man, I think we're probably gonna look like. Listen, if you want to hear my like just instinct, it's definitely gonna be wrong. I think it's gonna get better much faster than we expect. I don't know why. I think that I have no reason to think that. If you go by what they're saying, we're looking at months. I guess like if I had to choose, it's gonna be regarding stuff. The reason in my desire, I want it to go over. I don't want people to be sick. I don't want to live in the convert like the sun. I don't want to run out of food. I want things to get back to normal. I want to go around people.
Yeah.
But if you look at like, unless it's some vast, ridiculous conspiracy, I think we're looking at least a couple of months, man. I mean, and I'm going by not a conspiracy because I think that
I'm out of range.
Because I have a son, and if I listen to my own instincts when it comes to shit for my kids, I'm gonna be afraid to vaccinate him. Like millions of scientific papers have shown it's safe. It's good for his health because I'm like gonna get superstitious. So I lean into science. Science kept cancer from spreading in my body and killing me. I'm gonna trust the scientists right now and self-isolate and try as much as possible to not spread this shit. And I think that's, even if it
It's
turns out
too
to be a
far.
panic and scary or whatever, at least you were part of the people who weren't fucking going out and skiing
Yes.
during this fucking thing. So I think
Yeah.
it's going to go on longer, and I think Charlotte goes on longer if you have the ability to limit human contact and to avoid the superstitious part of yourself that I've got too, that's looking at this and thinking like, come on, really? I
Everybody
don't know
has that
anyone
part.
who's sick. I don't know.
It's also a rejection from change, a rejection of change that you don't have any control over.
Denial,
You
man.
deny that it's happening.
Because that's the easiest thing to do. If you deny that it's happening, you don't have to face the fear. And if you don't face the fear, well, then you put yourself in danger. But really, probably